Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on Superman and Lois Season 2, and this is going to be my review for Episode 5 for this season, the 33% mark of the season, if that's the way to put it, otherwise entitled, Girl, You'll Be a Woman Soon. And of course, spoiler alert, if you don't watch the episode, go away, because this episode reveals a lot, while also changing how I was thinking within an hour, if just 45 minutes, because that's really how much it is without ads. It did a lot without not doing ridiculously big amount at the same time. It was a weird episode in the best way possible, but we'll talk about it. But of course, throughout the video, be sure to let me know your various opinions, thoughts, theories, predictions, all that good stuff in the comment section down below. Always curious to read them, and especially just where you think this season is going as a whole, because they keep twisting and turning us. We're only 5 episodes in. I feel like this is like 10 episodes worth of content that they've done. It's really weird, but really good at the same time. And of course, if you're going to enjoy the video and you enjoyed the episode, just want to show your support, why not drop a like on the video to do all that? But of course, we did go on a 2/3 week break because of the Winter Olympics. It felt like it was ages. It was a very long 2 or 3 weeks. But of course, last episode, really the big meat and potatoes is that we had a lot of revelations around the Allie and Lois Lane and Lucy Lane stuff, and just a lot of drama there. But also Chrissy Beppo gets brought into it, and she doesn't really trust Lois and really wants to go on her own and investigate it herself and look into it without Lois sort of over her shoulder. But of course, Bizarro comes back into things. We have to get more Bizarro on Superman, but also Bizarro kills 2 of the super soldiers or Supermen of America, whichever way you want to call it, with Tag Harris being the only one that survives, but he does go away with the pendant, which now is in the hands of the US government or the Department of Defense. So because we went on that break, I wasn't too sure what to expect in this episode, because sometimes when you go on a break, you sometimes come back with just a very mellow episode. And I must say, this episode was mellow to an extent. It does have a subplot, even though it's really the thing that leads the title, which is about Sarah Cushing's quinceanera, hopefully I pronounced that correctly, or her turning 15. So that was like, not even, I say this, but half the episode, really, like the setup and then the actual thing going on, which then intertwines other plots and stuff going on as well throughout the episode. So it was like half mellow and then half of like, wow, a lot of reveals. But let's just jump into the actual breakdown of the episode, because there's a good amount to discuss. So we start in 1979 Metropolis, which caught me off guard at first. I just saw this little girl, then I was like, who the hell is this? And then I caught the end of that little subtext down the bottom of the episode, about down the bottom of the screen. So 1979 Metropolis, with this young girl and another family member there. Not too sure who it was. Was it her, like, I don't think it was like an older brother. Was it just like a guardian? I'm not too sure. It wasn't her dad, because her dad died. So yeah, I'm not too sure who it was. Do they say? Just an older family member, we'll just put it that way, or a guardian. But they're at the reading of a will where things go the young girl's way if, and this is a big if, she takes on this pendant, which looks a lot like the one Bizarro has worn, and we find out that this young girl is actually Allie Alstrom, the inverse theory leader, this cult leader, and she still has that pendant in the present day, and yeah, it's pretty much what Bizarro is wearing. So straight away, we're getting the connections that this episode is setting up, but then also this episode sort of twists and turns us towards the end as well as to where our, opinions and theories should be going. So yeah, this is like them planting the seed. Now, funnily enough, Lois is actually having some like vibey connections to that flashback we see at the beginning, as she doesn't really think it's too much of a coincidence that Allie is coming back into the picture at the exact same time that this weird reversed version of Clark or Superman has shown up, who we of course refer to as Bizarro. So even then, Lois is even, putting it together. I mean, she is, a top tier expert journalist, so I'm not too surprised, investigative journalist, so I'm not too surprised that she's connecting the dots before anyone else. Now, there is the subplot in this episode in regards to the Superboys, or the Sons of Superman, with Sam Lane visiting Smallville to start that training with Jordan that was set up previously, but he brings Jonathan into it as well to just help out a bit. Now, we do have a Jordan versus Jonathan fight, where Jonathan gets the upper hand thanks to some ex-kryptonite that he's been taking. Now, throughout the episode, we see just this anger, if you want to call it, build up within Jonathan, and it's almost like just roid munching, like he's just feel like you'd see like roid rage, he's getting ex-kryptonite rage, and it makes you wonder where it leads. Now, of course there were some set photos that came out which we went over in the past week, but we still got a long time until we get to that episode from those set photos. I think like pretty much 5 episodes. So where we are currently at the season, and we already know how much has gone on since this season started. So I'm interested to see what happens with Jonathan going forward, but there's more to discuss about them, but we'll leave that till later on in the video. Now, Lois is continuing her research on Ali Alstrom, as you'd expect. She's just not going to drop it, you know, but she's going over some old footage with the drama with Chrissy from last episode lingering in the background as well. But also, in the footage that Lois is going over, we see that Dr. Faulkner, the lady from Amatec from the opening few episodes, and that was, you know, involved with the mines, is in the crowd of one of the inverse theory lectures. And then we also see straight after that Bizarro has his eyes on her. So I was wondering like what the importance of Dr. Faulkner was. Obviously, I think it was in episode 2 or 3. I think end of episode 2, I think it was. She's on the phone to someone, and a lot of people thought it was the DOD. But now it seems it was Ali Alstrom. So very, very interesting, though. Well, we'll talk about Dr. Faulkner in a second. Now, Superman does confront Lieutenant Anderson about the events of last episode, and, you know, Lieutenant Anderson sending the inexperienced super soldiers out there just for a few of them to die. But we see on the military screens that when Bizarro and Superman come up against each other, there is this large energy field that surrounds them. Now, we had seen this sort of in their previous encounters, but it was sort of hard to tell exactly if it meant anything in those previous scenes, while this sort of thing from the military makes you go, okay, there's something interesting going on there. Now, the main thing from those fights previously that was of interest was that the pendant that Bizarro wore seemed to be set off by Superman being near Bizarro, and it looked like it was almost sucking in Superman or taking his power and energy or something like that. There was some weird connection going on there. So that was the point of interest in those scenes previously. But Lieutenant Mitch Anderson does think that Superman is going to use that pendant for power. But speaking of Dr. Faulkner from earlier, Lois actually goes to look for her following, you know, seeing the footage and going to ask her about the footage that she saw with her in it. But instead of finding Dr. Faulkner at the mines and being able to have a somewhat civil conversation, hopefully, she finds Bizarro. At least initially, she finds Bizarro just in there. It's like, oh, did Dr. Faulkner turn into Bizarro? But it looks like Bizarro has played a game of Bop It. You know, specifically the twisted, section of Bop It with Dr. Faulkner's head, skull, and neck, and body in general. Now, of course, it might not have been him. You know, we didn't see him do it. That's always something that has to be kept in mind. He can't explain himself either because of the way that he talks and everything like that. It could have been someone else. It could have been Gorilla Grodd. I don't know. But he is definitely the lead suspect because he had her eyes on her before when she was alive. Now she's dead. He's in her office. I mean, 1 + 1 is 2, but maybe 1 + 1 could equal 3. Does that make sense? I don't think it does. But anyway, Bizarro is going through some of her stuff, but when Bizarro sees Lois, he almost like can't believe what he is seeing. He starts to like twitch out, very similar to how he would when he saw Superman. So, makes you wonder, but he doesn't kill Lois like he did with Dr. Faulkner. No bop it with Lois. He just flies off and goes away. So that straight away makes you go, okay, well, he's not just out there he's just not a killing machine. He just doesn't kill for the sake of killing. There's something else going on there with this character. But going back to the Ali situation, we actually have Chrissy going to interview Ali and just sort of like diving into like what Ali does and the finer details of this quote unquote ascension that is discussed. But that interview is cut short when Chrissy is drugged through her tasty cup of tea. And as we see later, she has the pendant put on her and comes to, and according to Ali, has ascended. Now, Chrissy describes seeing her own Bizarro self, with the world being off and a bit unorthodox, except for Ali. She was the same, she's in control, she's everywhere, and everyone seems to be afraid of her in this Bizarro world. Now, I am so curious whether we actually get to enter this Bizarro world, or at least get to see it. So maybe like Lois or Superman gets affected by it, and we get like a bit of a point of view. Maybe it's someone like Jonathan that maybe gets brought into it. I'm going to be very curious to see what happens there. But hopefully we get to see this Bizarro world and what it looks like, at least in regards to the show's interpretation. Now, Lois and Superman finally arrive when Chrissy and, shortly after Chrissy has awoken after, being drugged. But Lois had no clue Chrissy was there. This is like a big surprise to her. But Lois and Superman are there to save Ali from Bizarro after what happened to Dr. Faulkner, because they had evidence that, Ali was connected to Dr. Faulkner thanks to things in her office. And sure enough, Bizarro arrives right at that moment, and we get Bizarro versus Superman in another fight. We saw them in the previous episode have a fight, and I guess even in the previous episode before that. But it's not a long one, and I think it's because we might see something else, though the end of this episode makes you think otherwise, that there might not be another fight. But we get to see Bizarro's fire breath versus Superman's ice breath, and then also Bizarro use his ice vision instead of Superman's heat vision. Superman doesn't use his heat vision in this episode, at least in regards to this scene. But it's thanks to what's going on with the fire breath and the ice vision that Superman figures out that Bizarro is the opposite of him, which in turn also means that X-Kryptonite weakens him. So at least they know if Bizarro goes off the rails again, especially if he goes against what we see at the end of this episode, that at least they know what weakens him. It's not some mystery. Now, Sarah's quinceanera, as I was saying earlier, was going on throughout the episode, mainly the preparations and everything like that. But of course, this big family moment for the Cushings, or should I say Cortezes, if that keeps going, is running alongside the pressure that Kyle is now feeling from the mistakes from his past, and that past is catching up with him. Now, Kyle's side piece, Tonya, from the bar that we saw last episode, actually shows up at the party. And this is because she's been trying to ring Kyle constantly throughout the episode. So maybe he should have just answered one of her calls and really avoided all this drama that goes on later. But she is actually giving him the heads up about how the mayor might know about his affair, which was hinted at a few episodes ago. But unfortunately, Sarah and Jordan are within ear range, and now they know, or more importantly, Sarah knows. Now at this quinceanera, everyone's there. Like everyone's there. It's sort of funny how Chrissy Beppo is invited to the quinceanera, but Jonathan's girlfriend Candace wasn't. I don't know. Maybe Chrissy's higher on the food chain in regards to getting invited to the party. I'm not too sure. I didn't realize Chrissy was mingling with the Cushings, but then again, I guess Chrissy's friends with Lois. I don't know, but Chrissy was invited, and she's there and opens up to Lois about what she experienced when she was drugged by Ali, which confirms Lois's fears about Ali. Which, of course, I'm saying Ali a lot, but Ali needs to be dealt with before maybe whatever happened in the Bizarro world happens here, which links up with what happens right at the end of the episode. Now, of course, we do get that awkward father-daughter dance between Sarah and Kyle. I thought it might have been more dramatic, like Sarah might have just outburst or just had an outburst in the middle of the dance floor. Luckily for Kyle, she didn't, but he still gets exposed. So Sarah breaks down, lets her father know that, that she knows. But of course, it all spirals from there as Lana gets brought into it all, and Kyle is exposed for his affair to Lana as well. So I don't know what's going to happen in the next few episodes for this. Gonna be interesting, but I definitely wouldn't want to be in Kyle's shoes right now. But then again, he dug the grave. I mean, he did all the mistakes. Not someone like framing him or something like that. He did it, so he has to own up to it. But at the same time, I wouldn't want to be him. You know what I mean? I'd rather be someone else. I'd be Superman in this situation, not Kyle. Now, we do get Jonathan versus Jordan round 2, but sort of verbally this time, with Jonathan actually lying to Jordan and saying that his powers are coming through naturally and not to tell their parents. So, as I was saying before, there's some set photos out there which show Jonathan in like an interesting predicament. And I am curious to see where Jonathan goes from here, because it seems like things are developing fast with him and this addiction is growing more, especially if it gets to this point of like proving himself to be better. Also, we don't know how Jordan is going to develop over time. So is going to be this competition of natural versus artificial. It's going to be interesting, but Jonathan, I keep... Got to make sure I'm not saying Jordan when I mean Jonathan. But Jonathan is just like, you can see the anger being built in there and this competitive thing within him. He's probably the worst person potentially to be taking this X-Kryptonite. So hopefully you'd hope that like Clark or someone finds out sooner rather than later, just so they can address it. But who knows how long it's going to take. But to finish off the episode, Clark gets an alert that Bizarro has come to after being knocked out, with Lara, Superman's mother, being able to reverse his speech and what he says and make us understand him, with him revealing that he is actually trying to save his world as well as our world that Superman's on. Now, Bizarro warns of this war that's coming, this being a war with Ali Alstrom, and all will be lost unless Ali is killed first. Now, the big thing with this is that they're pretty much saying that Ali Alstrom is the real big bad, but how does she get so much control? Now, we've talked about in previous episodes and previous reviews that in the comics, she is a version of Parasite, and it makes you wonder what's the development with her character, and are they putting some interesting, like, science fictional twist on this, where maybe she doesn't become this, like, alien being of sorts, but she does the same thing to people and maybe uses other people to go about certain means to control and everything like that. I'm curious to see the way they go with it, because this episode, like especially like the first like 5 to 10 minutes, get you into thinking that they're going to do this like parallel storyline with Bizarro's his villain, Ali Armstrong's his villain. They're connected in some way, and then it gets revealed later on. But here they're sort of like meeting really early on, and that's, you know, Bizarro is going to become like an ally for Superman and all the heroes and stuff like that, because they have a common threat. Of course, Bizarro and Superman still might be enemies, but they have a common enemy, which is Ali Alstrom, and Bizarro just wants his world to return to normal. But once again, we don't know if there's going to be another twist. There's still 10 episodes to go. We're only a third of the way through the season. So you'd have to expect there's more twists and turns to come, and it just matters, like, where's the twist? That's the big question. But overall, like, this was a really good episode to come back to after this break. I thought it definitely put some twists and turns in there, as I was saying, but also plant some seeds, and I'm very interested to see where they go, like the Jonathan stuff in particular, and also just where Ali develops, because it seems like it's really like underground at the moment, but how quickly does she get into the mind of like a really powerful figure? That's for us to wait and find out, but I thought this was a really solid episode to come back to with. But thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, be awesome. You could drop a like on it to show support. Let me know in the comments section down below your various opinions about this episode. Did you love it? Did you hate it? What were your favorite parts? Any theories and predictions going forward? Let me know in the comments section down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.